Welcome. In this video, we're going to take a look at Terrors of London. We'll do an unboxing with a component overview, and then go into game setup and go over the basics of gameplay. Terrors of London is a competitive deck building game with a Victorian horror theme, so automatically I was in. It's a cool looking box here. So we've got a lot of pictures of the cards in it. Welcome to the dark streets of Victorian London, a place where evil has risen from the deep and the fate of the mortal world lies in the hands of beasts and devils. So right off the bat, I like the artwork in this. The magnetic box to open it up. Take a look at the rule book. Nice large text. Components. Always like to see this to make sure I know what I've got. How to set up the game. Winning, the golden rule, how to take your game turn, actions, explanation of the cards, more how to play, glossary, keywords and icons, Servants of the Black Gate, expansion already included in here. Variant rules, the reptile tomb, extra bags. I assume we're supposed to be holding our tokens. So we've got some haunt, muster tokens, our overlord mats, so the baddies we can be are Bella, Chiron, Theno, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing some of these wrong, Samity, Cain, Elizabeth, Prometheus, and Sobek, Methuselah, Lilith, Azazel, and Fenris. Then we've got a lot of cards to look through. Take a closer look at those later. They're health tokens. Nice plastic cubes. And we can see the box where all our tokens were in. So obviously they punch out rather easily. These tokens are designed to be used with the power and coin tracks on the Terrors of London playmat. Don't have the playmat? Hey, you can order one through the website. So the Haven and Acolyte tokens. And more monster tokens. Just pulling some of the stuff out, I can see that the insert's a little broken, but I'm usually one that throws this stuff away anyway, so that's not a big bother to me. So I've got everything down at the table and separated by the base game and the two expansions. So I want to stress I have not played the game yet, but I have looked through the rule book, so we'll just take a quick look. I mean, this game to me plays a lot like Star Realms or Hero Realms, even the way it's set up. So if you played those games, I think you'll catch on fairly quickly. The small tokens that we punched out, like I said, they're used just for the playboard that you can get online, a neoprene mat. And these are used just to track your money and fight for the round, so you don't have to keep doing math. We've got our health tokens. With the Kickstarter version, got the cubes, and then these that we can use over top of our player mat, so you can just move them along as you take damage. And there's 4 different factions in the game. So you've got beasts, spirits, mortals, and undead. So basically at the start of the game, you'll choose a faction and take all the player mats of that faction if you've got the additional expansions. So I'd take all the undead, and then I would choose one of those to play with. And of course, on the player mat, they'll give you your special ability. And in small text, you can see to the side, you put your relics to the side. You've got a max of 3. On the other side is your discard pile and your deck. And then on the top is your play area. But you got the special abilities for each one of these. Got a bunch of haunt cards that help keep your minions in play. And of course, this will turn over to the dismiss side so that they don't stay in play too many turns. And then muster tokens. And there are player reference cards. So in the other expansion, it takes you up to 4 players. So you get 2 more. Just goes over doesn't go over turn order, but it just goes over the keywords and how different items will work. And of course, what's a deck builder without a bunch of cards? Cost up top to purchase the card and the faction they belong to, and of course their special abilities. And if you can create a horde by combining 2 cards together, once you do a playthrough or you read through the rule book, you'll understand this more. But if you have this card paired with a mortal or a spirit card, you'll be able to choose one of the abilities down in the bottom section. So I really like the artwork in this game. Of course, a ton of cards to go through and acolyte cards. So you'll create 2 decks when you create this. Acolytes will be one pile and all the other cards in another one. And then you've got some starter cards, cultists, and different artwork on different cultist and fanatic cards. Influence cards for each of the characters or factions you'll choose from. Basically, there's 4 for each one, and you'll choose 2 to start with in your starter deck. So a little bit different with each faction when you create your starting deck. And just flipping through a lot of the rest of the cards. So a whole lot of different artwork going into these. So that's the base set. First expansion is the Servants of the Black Gate. So this just adds more cards and 4 new overlords that you'll just put together. The only difference will be instead of the influence cards, you'll get 2 underlings to go with your starter deck. So not much different, but slightly different. And of course, those overlords with their abilities once again. You can pause if you want to read through these. Of course, the goal of the game is to get your opponent down to dead. And of course, a whole lot of new cards to add in with your base set. Influence cards. Some relics. Reapers, ghosts, contagions, and then down to our underlings. Then the second expansion, the Reptile Tomb. This allows you to go through the 2 versus 2 variant, which unfortunately tells you to go to the website to get the official rules. And since this is a Kickstarter and the tail version has not come out yet, those rules are not on their website yet. All they have on their website right now are copies of these existing rules. But it goes through the setup and how to play with the new items, which looks pretty cool. So toss these around. So 2 more health markers. Our overlords again. Elizabeth, Prometheus, and Sobek. 2 more cards to hand out, reference for your players. As I mentioned in the game, you're going to have one main market deck and also an acolyte deck. So this is just a little marker to sit next to that deck, let you know that each of those cards are cost 2. This is pretty neat. In your lineup, you'll have 5 cards. So you'll randomly put these 4 in with the first 4 cards. And if you buy a card from that slot above this with the same faction, you'll get additional abilities on your turn. And then in the last slot, you've got the Westminster Abbey. You can pay money to destroy the card above this and then shift all the cards down. So it's a way to cycle through cards in the lineup or to move something over so you can trigger another ability. Comes with terror tokens for each of the 4 overlords in this set. And basically they have different abilities that trigger off spending terror tokens. So getting everything ready for gameplay, just put all your tokens to the side. We'll separate all of your overlords by their faction. So I've got all the 3 undeads together, all the 3 mortals together, the 3 beasts, and the 3 spirit characters. Separate all the influence cards by their faction or overlord. Then the underlings by each faction. Pull out all the acolytes with the expansions. I've got 3 of every faction. Starting cards. It's going to be 3 fanatics for every deck and then 5 cultists. So just set those aside for each player to get. And then all the other cards get put together into the market deck. For setup, determine first player by whatever method you want. They'll choose a faction, take all the cards of that faction, and determine which one they want to be. So we'll say we're going to choose this overlord. Get our health tracker, put it on our max. Set that to the side. Then we'll find all their influence cards. Put the others aside. Then we choose 2 of these. And the game recommends you pick the 2 with this symbol on the bottom for your first game. So that'll be part of our starting deck. We'll then get our 3 fanatics and 5 cultists. And shuffle those together. And we have 1 character set up. Then your opponent will go through the factions, pick a faction, pick who they want to be. Of course, I'm going to be Lilith. And do the same thing for her. And if you picked one that used underlings, you just go through and take those 2 underlings. So you find her cards. Get her 5 and then just choose 2 to start with. And the same starter deck for the remaining 8 cards. Then we'll put the starters, underlings, and other influence cards out of our way. Pick these to the sides. Set up a market deck. We'll shuffle all the other cards together. Take our acolytes, shuffle them together. Put our reminder token under the acolyte deck. Pull out 5 cards. Put Westminster Abbey at the end. Shuffle the other 4 up and randomly put them in place. With the board set up, first player shuffle their deck and draws 4 cards, so that's a start player penalty. Of course, you can see starting cards aren't going to give us much. And the other player will get 5 cards to start with. And put their health marker in play. The goal of the game is to reduce your opponent's health to 0. Game turns, you'll have your action phase, cleanup, and draw phase. For the action phase, basically you can do any of these actions as many times as you need, except of course the pass phase, because that will end your turn. So you can play cards from your hand, buy a card, deal damage to your opponent, form or expand a horde, activate relics, activate your overlord ability, or activate the text on the monster that began its turn in play. Cleanup phase will involve taking all your cards that you put in your play area and put them in your discard pile, except the ones that received a haunt token. That's the only way you keep cards back unless it's a relic. Those are ongoing abilities. Then your draw phase, you will get 5 cards and continue doing this until you get your opponent down to 0 health. So as with most deck builder games, you're going to start off weak and work your way up to buy more efficient cards. Keep cycling the new cards you buy whenever you need to draw new cards and your deck is empty. Shuffle your discard pile to create a new deck. So like for this sample turn, I'll be doing 2 damage to Lilith. So she'll go down on her track there. And I would have 2 money to buy a card with. So the cost of the cards are on their top left side. Unfortunately, there's nothing in here for me to buy, so I'd probably just buy an Acolyte for 2. And basically all those are just going to give you 2 money. And if you can create a horde ability, get an additional money with them. So those cards, when you buy cards, they go to your discard pile. Cards in play go to your discard pile. And then you draw 5 cards to replace. So with our new hand of cards, the way our influence cards work is we would get the top ability here, but in the main section we would not be able to trigger that unless we had this type of faction monster already in play, which we will have to purchase our way into. So we just hold on to this hand. Opponent would take their turn. Of course, she's got the same card. She'll get the money from this, but she would not be able to sacrifice a card because she does not have any mortal cards in play. So what she's looking to do is to do 1 damage. Then 1, 2, 3, 4 money. And because she wants to get mortal cards in play, she'd probably just underbuy to get another card of her faction in her hand for 3. Put that in her discard pile. Card will be immediately replaced. And we are fortunate enough that it actually cost 1, so we can spend our remaining 1 money to buy another card. And replace that one. And of course, when we bought this one, because of that faction symbol in this slot, we'll be able to sacrifice a card. This is a good way to thin your deck out of cards that aren't that useful. So you remove a chosen card from the game permanently. Players can only choose to sacrifice a card from their play area unless an ability states otherwise. Player gains 1 power for each card removed from the game in this manner. So currently in our play area, we have the 5 cards we had. And we could sacrifice a cultist, which would get us an additional power to do a damage. And it thins our deck out some. These cards will go to our discard pile, then we draw back up to 5 again. And this would continue on. Where the game gets interesting is with the horde abilities. So if we were playing a bunch of different cards together, let's see here. So we played this card down first, and then we played this one after it. It matches this horde ability. And then every time you create a horde or you add another card to a horde, you can choose another special ability from one of the cards inside that horde. So this keeps getting bigger and bigger as you play more cards, so you can get more bonus abilities to trigger off of that. And that's the basics of how to play the game. You keep going until you get your opponent into the dead zone, and then claim yourself victorious. So that is the basics on how to play Terrors of London. Hope you enjoyed this video. So please click on the like button below and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.